I was hiding in a closet with my 4-year-old son in my own home. We were not making a sound. I could hear Danielle pulling drawers open in the next room. I could hear things being moved. I could hear her getting frustrated. Then I heard her on the phone. She said, "I cannot find her cards anywhere. She must have them on her." I had my phone in my hand, screen down, recording everything. My son looked up at me in the dark. I put my finger to my lips. He nodded like he understood. He was 4 years old and he understood. That was the moment I stopped feeling afraid and started feeling something else entirely. He gave me $200 a month and called it enough. He let his sister walk through our front door like she owned the place. He took a cake out of our son's hands and gave it to her without blinking. And he thought I had nothing to fall back on. If you have ever built something real while someone standing next to you assumed you had nothing, you already know this feeling. Subscribe, because this story does not end with a phone call and an apology. It ends the way it should. Stay with me. My name is Nora. I was 27 years old and living in Asheville, North Carolina. Late autumn. The cold comes early there and it does not leave. I had a 4-year-old son named Sam. I had a husband named Ryan who was 30, and I had a company I had been running since I was 22 years old. A handmade goods business. Started small, grew into something real. By the time I married Ryan, it was doing well enough that I had a team, a registered business, and savings that I kept completely separate from our joint life. When Sam was born, I stepped back from the public side of things. I told people I was taking time off. I told Ryan I was doing a little part-time work from home. What I did not tell anyone was that I was still the CEO, still signing off on contracts, still taking the calls, still running everything from my kitchen table while Sam napped. Ryan thought I was a housewife with a small side income. That was what I let him think. Because early in our marriage I watched how he handled money. He spent everything he earned. Every month. He gave me $200 for groceries and genuinely believed that was enough for a family of 3. He once suggested I quit work entirely and just focus on the home. I smiled and said I would think about it. I never thought about it. Ryan had a 20-year-old sister named Danielle. Before we got married, she seemed fine. After the wedding, everything about her changed. She started showing up without calling. No warning. The door would just open and she would walk in like she lived there. She never brought anything. She sat down and expected dinner. She spoke only to Ryan. If I was standing right in front of her, she spoke as if I were air. I cooked for her. I cleaned up after her. I ate whatever was left while she and Ryan sat on the sofa and laughed about things I was never included in. This was my life for years. What nobody in that house knew was this. Ryan had taken me to a lawyer 14 months into our marriage. He sat across from me at that desk looking calm and prepared. He had me sign a post-marital property waiver. He thought he was protecting himself from me. I signed it. I signed it because I had already spoken to my own lawyer the week before. I already knew exactly what that waiver covered and what it did not cover. My company was registered before the marriage. My primary savings account predated the marriage. The waiver he was so proud of protected almost nothing that was actually mine. He left that office thinking he had locked something down. He had locked down nothing. My company income came in every month to an account Ryan had never seen. Sam's nursery fees came from that account. His clothes, his checkups, his birthday gifts. Ryan thought I was stretching $200 a month to cover all of it. He had no idea, and I had no plans to tell him. The night with the cake was not the beginning. It was just the night I could not ignore anymore. Danielle had arrived without warning. Again. I was already running Sam's bath. He was in his pajamas. It was past 8 in the evening. Ryan came to the bathroom door. His voice was flat and loud. He told me to go buy a cake. Danielle wanted one tonight. I looked at him. I looked at Sam standing there in his pajamas with wet hair. I bundled my son into his coat, and we walked out into the cold dark together. On the way back from the bakery, I could hear voices through a cracked window of our house. Ryan and Danielle were talking about me. Danielle said she did not understand why Ryan had married someone so inconsiderate. Ryan did not correct her. He agreed. I stopped walking. I stood on that path in the cold and I did not move. I did not know what to do with what I had just heard. There was no good answer standing there. So I just stood there. Sam looked up at me. He could not hear what they said, but he could feel that something was wrong. I crouched down and asked him what cake he would want if it were just for him. He thought very hard. Then he said he wanted peaches and raspberries on top. We went to the bakery. I bought 2 cakes, one for Danielle and one for Sam, loaded with every fruit he asked for. I served Danielle first. I served Ryan. Then I placed Sam's cake in front of him and watched his whole face change. Then Danielle pointed at his cake and said she wanted that one instead. Before I could open my mouth, Ryan reached across the table and slid Sam's cake directly in front of his sister. Sam started to cry. Ryan told him to stop. He said he was the one earning the money in this house, so he decided who got what. Something shifted in me. I spoke for the first time. I told Ryan this was wrong. He lowered his voice and said maybe we needed to talk about divorce. Sam stopped crying. He reached up and took my hand. Then very quietly he said, "Mama, I actually like the other one too. It is really good." He smiled and took a bite. I took him and his cake to the back room and sat with him until he finished every last bite. From the hallway, I could hear Ryan apologizing to Danielle for the scene. He called himself stingy. He said he should have handled me sooner. I said nothing. I watched Sam eat his cake. We fell asleep together in his small bed that night. The next morning Danielle was gone. Then I heard Sam crying from his room. His ceramic piggy bank was on the floor in pieces. My father had given it to him. Sam said goodnight to it every single evening without missing a day. Every coin inside it was gone. I asked Ryan what happened. He shrugged. He said Danielle needed some cash, so he told her to take what was in the piggy bank. He said it the way you would talk about lending someone a pen. Sam was shaking in my arms. I held him and I cried. I could not stop. Ryan stood in the doorway and said nothing that mattered. I need to pause here. Has anyone ever watched someone treat something precious to your child like it was absolutely nothing? Like it did not even register? Tell me in the comments. I want to know. I raised my voice for the first time in 5 years of marriage. Ryan said nothing. He walked to the bedroom. He came back holding a folder. He shoved it across to me. Divorce papers. Already prepared. Already signed on his side. He had hidden them somewhere in that bedroom without ever saying a word. He walked out. The door slammed behind him. I stood in the kitchen for a moment. Then I packed a bag for Sam and one for myself, and we took the train 2 stops to my parents' house. My parents opened the door. They asked nothing. They just stepped aside. But here is where the story takes a turn I did not expect. The next day I took Sam to the park. We stayed out for hours. When we got back to my parents' house in the afternoon, I realized I had left something at the apartment. I decided to go back quickly while Sam stayed with my mother. When I got close to our building, something fell off. The light in the front room was on. Ryan was not due home for hours. I went inside quietly. I could hear movement. I could hear drawers being opened. It was Danielle. She was going through everything. The kitchen drawers. The bedroom. She was muttering under her breath and getting more frustrated by the minute. I backed into the hallway closet and pulled the door almost shut. My hands were shaking. I had my phone in my pocket. I opened the voice recorder and pressed record. Danielle moved through the apartment for another 10 minutes. Then she made a phone call. I could hear her clearly. She told Ryan she could not find the cards anywhere. She said I must have them on me. Ryan said something back and she said, "Then what do we do?" "I owe them by Friday." She locked the front door and left. I stood in that closet for another minute. Then I walked out. I took the recording, and I called my father's lawyer friend on the way back to my parents' house. That evening my mother made hamburgers. They were Sam's favorite. She always made them the same way, and he had loved them since he was 2. We sat around the table. Sam was quiet for a while. Then he looked up and said something that I was not ready for. He said, "Mama, Dada told me that our family is only Auntie Danielle. He said she is the real family." The table went completely still. My mother stopped moving. My father put down his fork. Sam kept eating. He did not understand the weight of what he had just said. He just knew what he had heard. My father looked at me. His jaw was tight. My mother reached over and tucked Sam's napkin back into his collar with steady hands and smiled at him like everything was fine. After Sam was in bed, my father made a phone call. My mother sat with me in the kitchen and did not say anything for a long time. She did not need to. That night I made my decision completely and without any doubt left in me. The lawyer reviewed everything the next morning. The divorce filing Ryan had submitted, the recording from the closet, the financial records I had been keeping quietly for years. He told me the waiver Ryan had me sign protected almost nothing that was actually mine. He told me my pre-marriage company and savings were fully secure. He told me to go back to the apartment one more time and get the final conversation on record. I went back. Ryan came home and went straight to it. He needed my bank cards. For Danielle. He said she needed the money immediately. I asked why. He gave me half answers. I stayed quiet. The quieter I was, the louder he got. He shoved the divorce papers across the counter. He said I had been living off his money and had no right to hold anything back. He said some things about Danielle that I will not repeat. He made it very clear where I ranked in that house. My phone was face down on the counter, recording every word. I put the papers in my bag. I took a breath. I took Sam's hand. We walked to the door. Ryan shouted that he meant it. He told us not to come back. I told him I would not return to a house where someone could walk in and take whatever they wanted. We left. They had no idea what was coming. Ryan sent over 200 messages in the next 2 days. I turned my phone off. The lawyer moved quickly. The case was clean. The recordings were clear. The financial documentation was solid. Ryan cried when the divorce was finalized. I was told this by the lawyer. I was not in the room. He signed a child support agreement, $340 a month for Sam. He signed it without negotiating. But that was not the end of what happened to them. When Ryan and Danielle's parents found out the full story, they did not take sides quietly. They found out about the gambling debts. They found out about the piggy bank. They found out about Danielle entering our home and going through my belongings while we were not there. Their parents disowned them both. Not a temporary falling out. A complete and permanent cut. Ryan lost his family support system entirely. Danielle's debts caught up with her with no one left to cover them. The plan they had built together collapsed completely, and they had no one to call. Ryan called me one more time after everything was settled. His voice was flat and tired. He admitted he had known exactly what he was doing. He said Danielle had been carrying gambling debts for over a year, and he had been trying to use my savings to cover her before it fell apart. He said he was sorry. I listened to all of it. Then I told him my answer would not change. There was a pause. Not dramatic. Just empty. He said he hoped I was happy. He hung up. The call just stopped. No real ending to it. No resolution in the words. It just stopped. That night I picked up my phone and looked at it for a long moment. I thought about typing something back. I put the phone down. I never told anyone about that moment. Nora is still at her parents' house in Asheville. Sam has adopted their old retriever as his personal little brother and introduces him to everyone who visits. Nora is back running her company full-time. The contracts are going out. The team is growing. The savings she protected through 5 years of that marriage are fully hers. Ryan signed a waiver to protect himself from her. He had no idea who he was dealing with. She knew that from the beginning. She just waited for him to find out. That is the thing about people who underestimate you. They do not just lose. They lose everything they thought they had already secured. Tell me something. If this had been you, would you have walked out the same night, or would you have given him one more chance? Drop it in the comments. And if someone in your life needs to hear this story right now, send it to them. They will know exactly why. If this story gave you that feeling, that satisfaction of watching a plan fall apart on the exact foundation someone thought was solid, subscribe. Because I have more. Stories about people who were written off completely, who then made sure that was the last mistake anyone ever made. See you in the next one.